Kyle Mohan Racing, KMR. We're going to do a workshop, and what we're talking about today is Series 4 rotors, 86 to 88. And if it was a turbo, then it was really only 87 to 88. Ooh, rare. So back on the bench, talking rotors. We'll start with easy identification of the Series 4 rotors. Whether they are turbo or naturally aspirated, you're going to have a cast pocket, and it's going to be a 2mm apex seal rotor. If you have a cast pocket and a 3mm apex seal rotor, it could be an early 13B, or potentially somebody's modified it. Either way, I recommend 2mm seals anyways, not 3mm, and the Series 4 was a way better rotor than those early 13Bs. So generally speaking, we go back to an 89, you can see how it's a machined pocket versus a cast pocket. Series 4, turbo, naturally aspirated. So, identifying turbo versus naturally aspirated. Obviously, the pocket is a lot deeper on the turbo. The turbo rotors available in the 87 to 88 US FC3S, even though we considered an 86 to 88 rotor, a lot of the turbos weren't released until 87 in the US. So it's a fairly rare rotor, but you had the 86 to 88 NA rotor right next to it. And you can see that the pocket is visibly deeper, but if you don't have it sitting right next to each other, sometimes that's actually a hard comparison. So my favorite way to identify a turbo rotor is you do have some markings in here, and one of those markings, like I've mentioned in other videos, is a T that's been stamped or cast into the turbo rotors on the oil gallery side. That's pretty easy to identify. And if I flip over the naturally aspirated rotor, you can see there is no T stamping. You do have the Roman numeral stamps. You will have a 86 to 88 rotors that have a 1-2 line or a single line. I believe that is referencing front or rear. However, at this point in time, these rotors are so old, I would never trust any type of assembly that comes in, whether it's been said to have been balanced or it's said to have been a factory assembly. There's so many things floating around that when I'm working with Series 4 rotors, I'm always going to do balancing, high-speed balancing, and generally I'm going to recommend lightning, side cutting, and basic race operations. Another neat thing you can see with this pair that I have here is this is original S4 rotor right here. This one being a newer casting, you can see that there's actually a height change. So your factory new rotors have tip clearancing built in. However, that's a factory improvement. It's not a factory race spec. Even these brand new rotors that are available from the factory, still, if you're going to turn up the boost, go high RPM, I highly recommend side cutting them, side clearancing them to proper racing specs. These are a heavy rotor, although the new castings are about 100 grams lighter than the early castings. You're coming in with these rotors in the range of 10 pounds, which is really heavy. Most of them were weighing in the 4,500 gram plus, with the new castings being approximately 50 to 100 plus grams lighter. And this goes on to something that a follower brought up, and I thought it was a definite good information that he did bring up, which was, and I think I did mention it in a past video, the factory stampings, this one being a C rotor, this one also being a C rotor, these would not match. All factory rotors currently sold are sold as a C rotor. It's the middle weight, but that basically matches nothing that would be an older rotor weight. I would always recommend, if you do have the need to get a new rotor, you should get 2 new rotors, or if it's a 3 rotor, 3 new rotors. If it's a 4 rotor, 4 new rotors. You don't ever want to try to match a new Mazda rotor with a original Mazda rotor. Kind of keep old with old, new with new. Even though the factory manual does say that technically a C should match a C, the weights are so far off, it would run, but it would shake, and it's outside of what we would be able to balance at KMR or Mazda Tricks. We can't balance a pair of rotors that are more than really a 50-gram spread, and that would be balancing the rear to the front counterweight and the other rotor to the rear counterweight. So just a little information. A follower brought up some information on the stampings and the fact that they, the manual does say they will match, but in actuality at this point you really have to go with weighing the rotors, not just looking at the stampings. So I hope this helps. Some good Series 4 information. My favorite rotors. They're heavy, they're thick, they're strong, they work fantastic, and if you lighten them up and side cut them, they make great race motors. So hopefully that helps identify them. Remember, cast pockets, 2mm seals. Turbos have a deep pocket. NA has a shallow pocket, and always look for that T stamp in the oil gallery side if you need to check if it's a turbo. And just a little teaser for the end. You can see we've got some lightening that's been done here, side cutting, and that's what I would do and have done to many Series 4 rotors and turned them into race rotors.